potassium. So all the very essential, the water, okay, for the maintain for the fluid balance, bicarbonate involved in the acid and base balance. Okay, how like that I will explain for you. And potassium is very important for the intracellular electrolyte. Okay, so and they can lead to the diarrhea, the loss of the nutrients like that. Okay, so the symptoms, clinical symptom here. So normally we involve in the loss of the ions, loss of the water, and severe in the dehydration. Okay, just recap information, previous slide for you. So they lead to some symptom example like vomiting and increase of the diarrhea. Okay, so because of the increase of the sodium and potassium chloride, bicarbonate, okay, and no fear, pains or cramps found in the cholera. Incubation times up to 2 to 3 days. Okay, so severe dehydration and depletion. Okay, when like the body cannot get the nutrients in and loss of a lot of water. Okay, so they lead to severe dehydration and depletion of the electrolytes. Electrolyte here, potassium, sodium, some bicarbonate. Okay. Okay, so they it lasting for up to 12 hours. Okay, when the first when the first of the diarrhea occur, and then it keeps for lasting for 12 hours. It means long, okay, long enough. So they can lead into the disorientation, swollen of the tongue, okay, become cold and clammy skin, dry mouth, sunken eyes, and sometimes like the dry hand and the feet, okay. So they lead to dry hand and feet, or shriek, but mostly dry hand and feet. Okay, so they can increase in severe and fatal complication. Example like deplete in electrolytes and water in the blood. Now occur in the cell only, but also it can affect on in the blood because the extracellular loss of the electrolytes, and then inside the blood they can migrate out. Okay, and also they lost. So deplete of electrolytes and water in the blood, it can lead to the severe symptoms. Okay. And now we talk about a little bit about the bicarbonate. Bicarbonate. So do you know that like our body maintain the acid and base through the carbonic acid and bicarbonate. Okay, carbonic acid and bicarbonate. The carbonic acid they involve in the respiration of the lung. Okay, when the lung control for the rate of the respiration, and they can control for the acid. Okay, but secretion of the bicarbonate. Carbonate is the alkalis. So the alkalis and the acid, they're working very, very, like logically to maintain for the normal pH of the blood. Okay, but in the region we lost of the alkalis, so it means that we cannot control for the acid base. Right now, a lot of acid and less alkali. Okay, because this one lost already. Okay, so lack of the alkalis, they can lead to the metabolic acidosis. Metabolic acidosis means that like the body symptom right now, they drop in the pH. Okay, and the state we call that like acidosis. Okay, and very dangerous. Okay, if they drop less than 6.8, okay, the normal range is around like 7.35. If we drop below until they reach 6.8, they can lead into that. Okay. That's a serious. Okay. They can like reduce level of the potassium, so lead into the muscle dysfunction because this one like intracellular and involved in the action of the muscle contraction. Okay, and also the level of the chloride and sodium also deplete. Okay, they can lead to headache, poor balance, orientation changes, the coma. Coma is mean the state that we not recognize anything. Okay, dangerous. So, regarding to the cholera, okay, Vibrio cholera infection, okay, that they generate the enterotoxin and they can lead to the severe dehydration. Okay, and for the severe dehydration, we need to supply back the water with the salts. Okay, because we not lost the water alone, but we lost the water with the electrolytes. Okay, so the rehydration therapy, okay, include the water with the salts and also intravenous fluid supply back. Okay, so intravenous. So sometimes like with for the food poisoning like this, so we need to be in the hospital so that like they can control for the supply back the intravenous of the fluid. Okay, and you see you need to stay there for a few days to supply back for the fluid. Have you know that? Have you know the term truyền nước biển?
Yes, teacher.
Yes. Okay, so they supply back by. Sorry, sorry guys. Okay, sorry guys for have like a call. Okay. Okay, so truyền nước biển, right? So you know that because like we don't need to supply back. Okay, so the fluid for the intravenous is mean like inside the blood. Okay. We move on the final part of the foodborne disease, which the most of the foodborne intoxication. Okay, so that another mechanism intoxications. Okay. So what is the characteristic of this one? So these toxins produced by the pathogens while growing inside the food before, okay, before they get inside the human gut. So we ingestion of the food containing the toxins, okay, and they can lead to the symptom we call that like intoxication. Do you understand? So that's different, okay? So the first move is that invasion. Invasion is mean that like living cell, okay, a lot take inside the human gut and then colonize and take over of the intestine. The second mode is that like toxical infection. It means that like we ingest at the living cell, but then like they not cause the problem, but they're caused by the toxin generated from afterlife cell or the toxin generated in the road. Okay. The third one, this one, intoxication. That we ingest the toxin before they already produced before available in the food, okay, before ingestion. So the symptom generally occur quickly because right now toxin already there. No need time for incubation, no need time for making the new toxin. Okay, so when the human consumption these toxins straight away they can lead to the symptoms. So the symptoms generally occur quickly. And the symptom differ with the type of the toxin. So it means that like for the intoxication sometimes very different. Okay. And if like after half an hour eating and you feel that okay your stomach not good and you got some symptoms like vomiting, diarrhea, and then like maybe you guys got a problem with intoxication. Okay, understand guys?
Yes, teacher.
Yeah. So in here, I will introduce for you guys some of the bacterial foodborne intoxication of the bacteria, okay, and the mycotoxin from the the moles, and maybe the biogenic amines. Okay, so we talk about the Bacillus cereus. They call for emetic poisoning. Okay, so they toxin producing. Okay, so diarrhea illness, emetic illness here. Okay, so they already available in the food. Okay, we talk this one like infection, toxical infection. So this one diarrhea illness, but we talk about emetic. 30 minutes to 5 hours. 30 minutes is short. Okay, very short. Okay, and they cause for severe after vomiting because they trigger of the brain function on response. Okay, of the immune system. So that like vomiting, diarrhea, nausea. Available in the fast food, the fried and cooked rice, pizza, and pastry. Okay, so this one the emetic. So emetic. Okay, so emetic poisoning associated with the starchy products. Example, this guy potatoes. Okay, so potatoes, rice, okay, starchy products. Okay, so the guidelines regarding to the temperature. Okay, regarding to temperature. So we need to store the food below 4 degrees Celsius. Like from 5 to 60, that the danger zones. Is it right? So we store under that. Okay, so 4 degrees Celsius until like 60 degrees Celsius. Right? So this one, 30 to 37, optimal crowd temperature for Bacillus cereus. Okay, and around 30 to 37. Okay, that humans environment. Okay, 60 degrees Celsius, and that's the point where the microorganisms starting to die. Okay, in the effect of the temperature. So keep cooked hot food above 60 degrees Celsius and can restrict of the growth of the Bacillus cereus. Okay, if we treat the food with the high temperature, so in the domestic cooking, so 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, so the spore it can reduce by tenfold. Okay, at 100 degrees Celsius or 6 to 27 minutes. It means that we keep to cook them very long, quite long, okay, boiling for 27 minutes. Okay, and keep in mind that emetic toxin they can resist into 126 degrees Celsius for 90 minutes. Okay, so do you think in the normal cooking stage, in the domestic cooking, right? So it already available emetic toxin inside the food. Is that the most likely we can eliminate them or not?
I think that we cannot eliminate all.
Yes.
Normally, we don't cook that long.
Yes. So further question, okay? So do you think why some hot food in the canteen okay, some hot food from the canteen that onshore they can lead to the food poisoning. They store over 60 degrees Celsius. Why they got the food poisoning? Do you think any reason? Hot food over 60 degrees Celsius they store in the canteen, right? But then, like, they still got their food poisoning. And why is that?
I think it's even though we serve in a high temperature, we don't have bacteria anymore, but the toxin that can endure the high temperature is still resist with the high temperature, so it's still maintaining the food.
Yes, that's right. It means that, like, it's not like, the hot or not hot, but because of, like, onshore the food preparation. Okay, if the food preparation be contaminated before and then the already toxin generated already available in the food, and even though like you cook them, you not destroy all the toxin. You can destroy the vegetative cells. Okay, but then the toxin sometimes heat resistant. Okay, and can lead to the food poisoning. Okay, so this one open the ideas for you guys. You considering why in the life sometimes people eat just hot food and then they still got a problem with the food poisoning. Okay, so the reason most likely because some the toxin heat resistant toxin available in the food before, and that cause for the intoxication. Okay, got that?
Teacher, so
Yep.
the cirrhosis is also can affect us in the toxical infection and
Yes.
also the
Hematite.
intoxication, right?
Yes. But before we already talked about like toxical infection, but now we highlight on the emetic, the intoxication only. Okay. So later on, if you guys working for the, like government sector, okay, regarding to tracing for the, how to prevent for the outbreak of the food poisoning example, and you guys like gathering information from this course, okay. So what mode of the action, invasion, toxical infection, or intoxication, and then you guys can, like know where to trace for the food poisoning. Okay. So for this kind of the poisoning, maybe it's not because of like the storage, but because of the the preparation and the materials that involved in making the food. So and also involved in the hygiene condition of the like the food supplier. Okay, so continue. Okay, so rheumatic symptoms develop very early, 30 minutes only. Okay, so nausea, vomiting, and pains, abdominal pains, watery diarrhea, no fever, lasting for 24 hours. Okay, so this one like very similar with the staphylococcus gastroenteritis. Okay, so we talk about the second, seconds after intoxication because of the staphylococcus. This one also gram positive, okay, gram positive, spherical coccus. This one coccus, spherical. Sometimes oval, okay. So mesophilic and facultative anaerobic bacteria. So grow at the temperature of 7 to 48 degrees Celsius, wide range, okay, optimum 35. And this one like under the microscope. Okay, they can grow at a low water activity, okay, and the show pollution 7.5%. Okay. The X-ray is quite large, okay, so 4 to 9.8. Okay, so involved in the food type and the connection with the outbreak of the food poisoning confirmed in the United States. Okay, um, in here, most likely we found in the pork, okay, and the bakery products. Some other in combination 37, but from specific products, you see that like the pork is quite high risk. Okay, okay, so potential source for the Staphylococcus aureus. Okay, so the potential from the animals, okay, and also um, from the human world. Okay, it can be. Okay, they can grow and formation of the enterotoxin. Okay. Enterotoxin here they call for the intoxication. Okay, so the symptom occurred because of the food poisoning of this type because of intake of enterotoxin. Okay, so this one available in here. This one the toxin available in there. Okay, so once again, come back like here. Let's just say that like the poisoning because of like enterotoxin available. So intoxication. So where the toxin available? Okay, so some more of conditions they can contribute into available of toxins in the food. First, inadequate of refrigeration, poor personal hygiene, so inadequate cooking and heating of the food. Okay. But these things, like just like give the chance for the Staphylococcus to grow, but when they grow, they generate for the toxin. Prolonged use of warm plate, okay, when serving food, okay. So holding the food at one temperature for several hours, let the Staphylococcus aureus grow enough longer, sufficient in number and generate production. So you know that in the buffet restaurant, normally buffet restaurant they lasting the warm food, okay, is quite long, few hours. Okay, just be careful. Maybe sometime like if the hygienation of the restaurant is not good, then like got a problem. Okay, so Staphylococcus aureus they can call for the problems, okay, because of the toxin they can generate only 10 microgram. 10 microgram. It means 10 ppm. You know ppm? Very, very small amount, okay, microgram. Okay. 1 part of millions of gram. Okay. So they cook or process food contaminated with the Staphylococcus aureus, and then they production of their enterotoxin, and this one is stable, and any chance of consumption that can lead to the problem. Okay. So the toxin they bind to the submucosa of the Staphylococcus aureus. Okay, so they bind to the mucosal cell, release of the toxin, heat resistant. Okay, heat stable, and they can like got the problem with the stomach, respond with the brain function. Okay, so they generate for vomiting because of involved in the response from the brain. Okay, they stimulate for the vomiting center, okay, in the brain, okay, and they lead into a lot of vomiting within 30 minutes. Some clinical features after this intoxication include nausea and vomiting and abdominal pain, dehydration, or sometimes like with or without diarrhea. Okay, so but mostly involved in the vomiting and dehydration because vomiting we lost of the fluid as well. Okay, the next one also involved in intoxication. That the botulism, Clostridium botulism. We call that like the state of being poisoning of the botulism. You still remember this one, guys? Is it familiar to you?
Yes, the one appear in the
Yeah, recently, right? Not too
yes.
far. And you see that like, what is the severity of the food poisoning? Is it like mild or severe? If they got like Clostridium botulism poisoning,
I think it's highly severe.
yes, highly severe because they can lead to death. Okay, many some people die from the north, from the south, even in the new province. Okay, so involved in the Clostridium botulism. Okay, and this one is a very potent toxin, very potent. It means that very strong, okay, very toxic. Okay, so the botulism toxin, they have the mode of action from the neurotoxin involved in the brain, okay, neurotoxin. Okay. And you got the A, B, and EF for the human botulism. But other type available. Okay, from here, dormant spore. What does it mean, dormant spore? Spore. Still remember this one? Gram-positive spore forming. Okay, so when the heat processing lecture, you already know that like we for those kinds of this spore, we need to treat 121 degrees Celsius under the pressure, okay, with the 12 log cycles of D value, okay. So this one to aim to kill the spore, endospore. The endospore of the Clostridium botulinum very heat resistant, okay, and they're not easy to be eliminated, not easy to inactivate it. So the dormant, they still alive, but not working. They're still alive there. So whenever they get into the food, on the, this one I demonstrate for you. This one on the plate of the beef steak example. Okay, so in the good condition, those they come back as the vegetative cell. Okay, so they say that the mature bacteria because of the vegetative cell. And when they grow like this, and they generate for the toxins. So the toxin they consumed by the human, okay. So and they can lead to the problem with the botulism. Okay, botulism toxin they inhibit for nerves, okay, and the problem with the muscle controlling. So it means that like the muscle cannot be contracted because lack of the the signal generated from the brain, okay, because they already nerves be inhibited. Okay, that's the botulism. Okay, so the pathway lead into the problem. Okay, so the consumption of food containing the botulinum toxins, okay, and absorption through the intestinal tract go to the blood circulation system, which means go to our blood, okay, and effect on the peripheral nerve, where they can control for the motion, control for the other limbs. They can like walking, example, hands and our legs. So peripheral nerve, okay, lock the nerve impulse at the neuromuscular junction, so not working anymore. Okay, so one of mode of action that they involve in disruption of acetylcholine releasing. The acetylcholine means that when the nerve be transmitted, okay, so they need to have the acetylcholine, but here they disrupt for the acetylcholine release. It means they're not split, okay, they're not split and recycle of the neurotransmitter signal, and then they block for the nerve impulse. Okay, and this one they control for the contraction of the muscle. Okay, and that lead to paralysis. Okay, that later. So where happen in the adult? Okay, but in the infant children also they got a problem. And one thing here I want to remind you guys that like for infant children is that like they got the infant botulism because of injection of the spores, most likely available in the honey. Okay, in the honey. So the problem is that like the honey containing for the spore. Okay. Or another way is that like they may involve in the sensation across of the intestinal epithelium. Okay, so they inside there. Okay, okay, and straight into the general circulation and into like the blockage of the peripheral nerve terminal. Yeah, this one the cleft of the synapse, if you still remember. Okay, and this one also they connect with the another nerve cell. Okay, but at the cleft they be blocked for the acetylcholine. Okay, for the humans, not only consumption, ingestion, but also about the wall botulism. Okay, so maybe infections through the mouth, right? Sometimes we got like inhalation botulism and foodborne botulism in regarding to the consumption of the, the food containing the toxin, right? And sometimes also we got like the wall botulism. Okay, so for botulism, dangerous. Okay, and then they not only so normally people just think about like because of the wall. Okay, because of the wall. But like foodborne botulism also available there. And for you guys, you have the connection between like the wall botulisms and the foodborne botulism. Actually, the same. Okay, the same agent, Clostridium botulinum. Okay. So why the one question for you guys? Why infant children they normally they use the honey? Any ideas? Why infant children normally they use the honey?
I think that because most of us believe that honey have the sterilized properties, so we use the honey to clean the tongue of the baby.
Yes. Normally like, we do that, but then like like not the traditional, not conventional. Okay. So right now like something that logic from the conventional that we can keep, but if not very logic, and then like maybe they can lead into the high risk, and then we can like change. Okay, maybe your parents, okay, your grandpa, grandmas, okay, they already got that tradition, but okay, from you, okay, just think about considering when we clean the tongue of the infant children. Normally we just use the warm water. That's enough. Okay, and it using honey, okay, sometimes that's a risk. Okay, so the main problem with the botulism that they can lead to the problem with the muscle contraction. Okay, and they got problem with some other thing as well. Okay, example, uh, they can like call for the flare eyes. Okay, they cannot see well. Okay, cannot speak well, so they very hard to speak. Okay? and also they got problem with the respiratory paralysis and muscle weakness. For those problem is very like dangerous, and the symptom is need to be recovered like um, long periods. Okay, the botulism is very very strong toxin. So what this one like you call in Vietnamese the botulism? What you call in Vietnamese? Any ideas? Oh, not yet, right? Okay, later on you can discover this one. Okay, this one popular. Okay, so next part, I try to introduce for you the mycotoxin. And so after this one, like maybe we can take a break. Okay. So the toxigenic modes. Toxigenic means like the mode they can generate for the toxin, they can release for the mycotoxin. Okay, and this one is not the primary product, but the secondary metabolite from them. Okay, and that called toxic effects for human. So consumption of the food containing for the mycotoxin, they can call the mycotoxicosis. Most likely involve of the aflatoxin in Vietnam. Okay, aflatoxin in um, the law regulation. Okay, another one the botulism. Also, they can regulate by the Ministry of Health in Vietnam. They already got like limited amount available aflatoxin. Okay. Some other countries maybe involved in the uh, fumonism. Another one like ochratoxin and zearalenone. But most likely we found in Vietnam that like the aflatoxin and botulism. Okay, mold producing toxin. Bacillus, still remember? Okay, so this one for your reference. So we go quickly on this part, and then like move on the several of the mycotoxin generating modes. Okay, so that involve in the moisture content of the environment and the relative humidity. Okay, the environment that we store of the food, temperature, substrate, and pH. So they can contribute into the aflatoxin generate. Okay, so mostly involved in the bacillus. Okay, so for the minimal water activity requirements for growth of the mycotoxin production, okay, for aflatoxin, most likely we maintain the minimal water activity less than 0.8, okay, by the drying of the food, okay, most involved in the molds that the cereal products, if you remember, and the cereal products, you guys need to maintain very low water activity by eliminate of the moisture content of the food. Okay? And the Bacillus flavus, another one Bacillus, the Parasiticus, it can maintain. So under 0.8, okay, inhibit the growth, but also inhibit for the toxin production. So if you let them grow at the water activity of 0.83, and then they can lead to the toxin production. The pattern from the medicine, not very popular, but also it can regulate from the law, okay? And very high water activity they can generate for the toxin production. Okay? So for those that they like the fresh food, okay, they involve in the medicine. Toxin involved in other like bacillus or process and some like medicine of the cyclopean, but most likely we talk about this one aflatoxins. Okay, so this table for your reference have a look on the different type of the aspergillus and medicine, okay, and also the fusarium involved in the generation of the mycotoxin. Think about the temperature, okay, so design for the water activity, the temperature. So normally like the requirements of the storage is that like most of the cereal we need to store in they not say like in the fridge, but they store in the say in the cold condition. Okay, cold condition, low low humidity. Okay, low humidity, less chance for the grow in the mold, and then like you can inhibit for the mycotoxin generated. Okay, roots of the foods contamination by mycotoxin. So most in the field, most in the storage, and most in the damage range. So this one like when you do exportation of any grains into other country, they test this already very carefully because they strictly regulate. Okay? The molds during storage also a problem. Okay, so anytime you buy the peanut from the conventional markets, have you noticed that inside the peanut they got the molds in there? Anytime? Any times you've been to the conventional market to buy peanut? Okay, and also careful when you. I know like sometimes we eat the roast peanut we buy somewhere, okay, and then the inner one, the inner of the kernel, they got like the dark blue color inside. Okay, that's a lot of aflatoxin and the liver damage. Okay. So they are available in the substrate at the grain cereal, and then like production of the mycotoxin. Okay, and maybe they generate from the feed. The feed they go to the animal, the farm animal, and the farm animal generate for the eggs, generate for the some other like products for human. The mycotoxin in ingredients, okay, like grains, cereal, okay, in the food as well. Okay. It don't have any pathway of elimination, and then they can carry over the food products and introduce into the food for human. Okay, and the final, everything that lead to the table for human serving. And that is the way the mycotoxin they can take into the human body. Okay, so talk about the toxicities. Okay, the toxicities of the mycotoxin here. Okay, just think about an aflatoxin. Just discover something. Okay, so first, hepatotoxin, most likely recognized. Okay, hepatotoxin. Okay, so we recognize this one, most likely the hepatotoxin and carcinogen for the liver. Okay, so most recognized here. So what is the hepatotoxin and what is the carcinogen? What is it? What is that? Hepatotoxin? Have you studied about the food toxicology?
Yes.
Yeah, so can you guys explain what is the hepatotoxin?
I think hepatotoxic related to the liver damage, and about the carcinogenic, this means that the toxic that can generate the mutation in our genome, and it can cause the abnormal cells.
Yes. Hepatotoxic, they cause for the toxic of weak organs. Any guys know of weak organs?
I think liver.
Yes, liver. Okay. So most likely we recognize about like the mycotoxin from here in the state in Vietnam that like they can call for the liver damage and cause for the cancer. Okay, that's from the aflatoxin. Other effects maybe have, but not like common, but the most common and confirmed by the literature that the hepatotoxic and the carcinogenic liver damage and cause for the cancer. Okay, dangerous. Okay, so from the pathogen that regulated by the Ministry of Health, that they cause another one, teratogenic. You know teratogenic, what does it mean? Teratogenic. If you already learned about the food toxicology, and you guys can easily to identify this. Teratogenic. Any ideas?
I don't remember so well, but I think it's somehow relates to the ability to giving birth.
Yes. Involved in abnormal of development of the fetus. So the baby become abnormal. Okay. So dangerous as well. You see. So aflatoxin. Okay. We talk about aflatoxin much. Well absorbed already. Okay. So why this one is well absorbed through the food? Okay. Because that they lipophilic, fast soluble. Okay. So why exposure to human skin? Okay. Because they lipophilic. Okay. In the skin, they can also, if you in contact, they also cause for absorption, even they slow. Okay. So the aflatoxin they can accumulate in the food crop and feed. Okay. So they into the consumption. If too much, they lead into the acute of the aflatoxicosis. But this one is not much. Mainly, okay, we consume the moderate amount where they can go inside the body. Okay, they can call for the mainly the liver cirrhosis and the chronic hepatitis B and C infection. They can lead to the liver cancer in combination. Okay. So also a flash effect on the reproductive health, teratogenic. Okay, and this one like carcinogenic, and this one hepatotoxic. Okay, so mainly aflatoxin, two types. Okay, that the cause for the damage of the liver and then the cancer. Aflatoxin are toxicogenic, mutagenic, hepatotoxigenic, and carcinogenic. Mostly mutagens involved in the teratogenic. Okay, so from the most they can for this sort of toxin accumulate in the rains and in the human food. After consumption, they lead into the human body. And where the liver? Why the liver? Because the liver is the first part, okay, where the metabolism takes place in the most. And unlucky that like in the liver we got like cytochrome B450 that they dedicate for like metabolism of the nutrients inside the body. Also they take involved in the metabolism of the aflatoxin. And after be metabolized, they become active state of the aflatoxin that become epoxide. Okay, epoxide they can disrupt for the genetic, okay, level by RNA and DNA. Okay. So by this one, they can involve in the another derivative of the aflatoxin guanine. Okay, and involved in the modulation of the cytokine expression, okay, immune suppression, toxicity on liver and kidney. Okay, so anytime you found that inside your food, okay, inside your peanut, example, they got like the one or two, okay, one or two of them they got a problem with the molds inside. What should we do with that peanut? Should we collect the not molding kernel and then we continue consumption, or we just eliminate all of them? What should we do?
I think that we should eliminate all of them.
Yes, because most likely they already in the same environment, even they will not detect yet, but they have aflatoxins available in there already. Okay, so for exportation, if you export like the peanut to other countries, they will test for the aflatoxin very carefully before they make decision. Okay, they accept that lot or not. Okay, otherwise they will reject on the lot. Even they find out only few kernels within tons. Okay, they will reject it. Okay, so the next one we talk about biogenic elements. Because of the working of the decarboxylase working down of the proteins, okay, they can lead to from free amino acid, and some of them they can lead to the biogenic elements. Okay, under the working is some decarboxylase of some bacteria available in there. So they can carry for the histidines, and then they convert into the histamine. Okay, especially for the seafood, histamine in seafood. Have you ever heard about that? Histamine cause for what problem? If histamine available in your food, what they cause for which problem? After eating, you feel comfortable or not comfortable? Have you ever heard about allergy?
Yes, teacher.
Yes. So the histamine mostly involved in the like allergy. Okay. So most of the symptoms that we have here that like involved in rusty skin, right? And then maybe like nose runnings. But then some other thing like tears, teary eyes, okay, swelling, inflammation of the skin, like this. That's the normal that we can see. Okay. But inside the blood, maybe also they can affect. Okay, so they can increase in the frequency of the heat blood. Okay, the beat after our heart. Okay, so increase in the rate, blood clots, and the gas acid secretion from the stomach as well. Yeah, but most likely we found here the symptom that we call that allergy. So in human, the histamine they can like it's an effect primarily by the binding the G protein coupled with the histamine receptor, and they through the HEC1 export the symptom that is the histamine. Okay, so HEC1, okay, next one HEC2, and H3. Another one have X4, but most likely in X1. So what they do with the involved in the secretion of the calcium cation. Okay, so school of the muscle contraction, increase in the capillary permeability and vasodilation, okay, and sensory nerve ending pains or ET. So that like like we call like the ET. You know ET? What does mean ET?
It's the I think it's the feeling like we are some spot of our body feeling like hot and feeling like burn in that place.
ET mean that like like you feel that like uncomfortable, okay, not comfortable on the spot, okay, where like become reddish, and then you need to brush it, okay. So the ET, like monkey, okay. So that commonly we found, okay, after eating some of you very sensitive to histamine, and then after eating some like seafood, and then they got the problem. But mainly the problem with the biogenic has been mostly involved in the histamine or the like allergy. Okay, parasite. Okay, so for this lecture, we not mention about parasite, but think about parasite when you consume for the raw and uncooked fish or some like products. Okay, so the multicellular parasite is still available in there. Okay, and that reason why the recommendation that like you need to take the Fugaka for every 6 months. You know that Fugaka is still available in the market. It means that every 6 months we need to take this one because of like eliminate after parasites. Okay, so have discovered the parasite in your reference. Okay, so just further reading for the parasite. So I not cover this one for this lecture. Okay. Okay, maybe I will have like a short break. Okay, before we come back for the another part in the food processing application. Okay, fermentation. Is it okay for you guys?
It's okay, teacher.
Yep. Maybe we have like 10 minutes break. Okay, and then we come back. Okay. See you guys.
giờ đi chat cầm kẻ mà đã mua thuốc cho anh Tâm bổ đi. Làm gì vậy? Lượm được vàng trong toilet hay sao mà cười tươi dữ vậy?
Cái này nó lộn quá làm sao gọi.
Chơi chứ chơi.
Kéo ra được cái gì?
Có bệnh thì đi khám
Ai
cho
lại đẹp
tôi.
quá ha.
Có cần tôi hẹn bác sĩ giùm cho anh không? Hai nữa cái gì? Khám bác sĩ cái gì vậy?
Ghét đẹp
Không
luôn.
cần tới chúng tôi nữa. Kiểm tra sức khỏe của anh đã có rồi. Cái gì?
Lưng mày dài rồi cái ghế này sắp chỉnh.
Nhìn cho kỹ nha. Người nào mà chết như vậy?
Luật sư nghiêm cẩn của công ty luật tra lý thi đi tiểu không có sức làm rớt từng giọt xuống sàn nhà, không chịu nổi một tấm. Đang nói anh đó.
Là người nào viết? Không biết nữa. Vừa mới vô đã thấy chữ viết trên đó rồi. Có phải giờ này đá nữa nào nên mới bị trả thù không hả? Có Angela, Baby, Julie.
Được rồi, ra ngoài chơi thì phải có hy sinh mà.
Hy sinh cái nào cậu? Nè, chỗ này có nhiều người ra vào. Cô nào mà dám qua trương quá vậy chứ?
Tức là đàn ông giết rồi.
Người đó nhất định là ganh tị tôi đẹp trai. Tất cả các cô gái ở quán bar đều yêu thích tôi. Muốn biểu xấu tôi đúng không?
Nè, không có lao được đâu, là phần đặc biệt mà. Bảo kiếm chị tập vụ giúp đi.
Đi mau lên đi. Nè chị à, đó phòng nhà vệ sinh đang bị dơ. Làm phiền lau sạch giùm.
Trời ơi, lát nữa để tôi lau.
Không được, tấm kiết bị dơ rồi. Không lau sạch là lớn chuyện đó. Chị cảm phiền đi.
Cậu không nhìn thấy tôi đang lau sàn hả?
Xin lỗi chị, hay là chị đưa nước lao đi để chúng tôi lao cho.
Nè, cậu thanh niên này rất là lịch sự. Đợi lát đi.
Chà, bà chị này cũng rất cá tính kìa.
Chị Thiền hơi cọc lắm, nhưng mà không có gì đâu.
Nếu để tôi biết người nào dám giết cố tình tổn thương tôi như vậy, tôi sẽ cho bị trời hành.
Thôi đừng có nói quá mà, ăn ngoài sáng người ta trong tối, ai biết ai làm sao mà kiện được chứ.
Còn phải chứng minh người ta ngụy tạo sự thật mới định tội được nữa.
Phải đó, muốn chứng minh sự thật phải đi tiểu ngoài tòa thôi.
Cho chủ đề báo ngày hôm sau rất hay. Luật sư vì chứng minh có lòng có sức, không tiếc dâng hiến trước mặt mọi người. Nè hay đó, ai cũng biết đó nha. Còn lấy tôi ra để làm trò đùa. Làm gì đây? Muốn tìm được cái tên nhảm nhí đó không phải là không có cách. Cậu có cách. Để tôi chụp hình rồi post lên mạng để coi dân mạng có nhận ra nét chữ của anh ta hay không, rồi khởi động máy truy tìm để tìm anh ta.
Phải đó, có nhiều vụ trên mạng, giờ mới điều tra được đó.
Mấy cậu điên thiệt, đưa lên mạng như vậy, mọi người tưởng tôi là bị suy thận thì làm sao? Cách này không được, cách kia không được, không lẽ mặc kệ. Không mặc kệ thì phải làm gì? Không để ai đi canh chừng.
Có cách mà. Nè, nếu có lần đầu thì sẽ có lần sau.
Cậu Trắng nói đúng đó. Hay là trên ảnh đi. Tôi thật sự không rảnh giống như mấy người. Có đội không vậy đi lấy chai nước rửa mà cũng lâu
Bố
nữa.
tôi mắc nợ cậu sao trả lại đây. Nè, cậu lau thì lau. Đừng làm tôi phải dọn lại lần nữa nghe.
Chị Thiền à, cảm ơn chị nha.
Cảm ơn chị. Sao rồi? Tại sao lại họp nữa? Tôi mới đi gặp khách hàng vậy.
Cuộc họp này á, là vì anh đó.
Tại sao?
Cậu Tân lên khu thảo luận trên diễn đàn tìm được đoạn phim này nè.
Sự kiện này gọi là sự kiện bêu xấu của chị quét dọn vệ sinh. Chắc anh cũng biết là chuyện gì rồi. Có lộn hay không? Thì ra là chị này. Lúc trước chị nói quan cho tôi làm dơ phòng vệ sinh. Tôi chửi có mấy câu. Tôi không ngờ chị lại ôm hận chơi tôi như vậy.
Đoạn phim này không phải anh đưa lên mạng, có lộn không đó.
Thần kinh. Thời gian của tôi rất quý báu.
Ừ.
Được chỉ sao?
Không phải đưa lên mạng á, thì là ai đây?
Thì phải.
Có thể là Nghiêm Cẩn tôi có nhiều fan. Họ thấy chướng mắt cho nên thay tôi lấy lại công bằng.
Hello guys, welcome back
Tìm bà Tám
with the lecture.
Tôi vừa mới tới phòng quản lý.
You guys still here?
Chứ thì ra bên đó đã nhận được tin từ trước. Sáng nay đã đủ.
So we continue guys.
Nếu có mấy chữ mà đủ
Yes, teacher.
và hơi nặng đó.
Đoạn phim có kèm theo
So,
nhà Long Phúc. Phòng quản lý
Lecture today we talk about like the roles of microorganisms in food processing.
Đâu có cần phải
We
đuổi gì
apply
chuyện vậy.
in
Chia cảnh của chị Thiệt
the
Hương
field
vốn
of
là
the
người độc thân và chăm sóc cho hai đứa
food
con.
application
Hai người nữa
beneficial.
đã dứt giải lắm rồi. Bây giờ còn mất luôn việc làm. Anh kêu chị ấy biết tính sao?
Người đưa đôi
So in this part of the lecture we talk about like form and parts. Okay, so first we talk about the basic principles of the food fermentation, and then we talk about products,
Là tên trên mạng của anh Võ.
and we talk about the starter culture, which means that like commercialized under like the starter culture being collected. Okay, so the collection of the starter culture for industry.
thì để cho bạn bè trên mạng bình luận.
Đặt miếng ăn của người ta giống như giết cha mẹ của người ta.
Tôi làm sao biết chị ấy bị đuổi việc? Lâu nay chị ấy là người không thân thiện, không chỉ được.
And final part, we talk about like the robotics, prebiotics, and the symbiotics. Okay, and this one like
Cái gì chứ?
also the trends of like the new products developed from the
Chị Thiền không có đúng.
combination between the food material and the microorganisms, so that we bring the new concept of the application of the health benefits of the certain of the microorganisms, especially the lactobacillus and the prebiotics available in the food. So we'll introduce for you later on.
Gì đây? Bởi vì chị ấy là phụ nữ nên nhiều người thương hại thôi.
Có thể đưa lên mạng là mong triển khai công thẩm ở trên mạng, nhưng tới cuối cùng lại
Okay, so talk about the fermentation.
Thật ra anh Võ cũng không biết kết quả cuối cùng là
So you guys know the fermentation?
Như anh suy nghĩ kỹ
Yes or no?
thì đâu có bị đuổi gì. Internet là một công cụ có quy luật.
Yes, teacher.
Yeah, okay. So in here we have like two types. One is submerged and another one is solid state. Okay, so they have
Suy nghĩ cả đêm đến
immobilized. So it means that we deposit of the microorganism on the base. Okay, we do the solid state fermentation. Otherwise, we mix in the medium, we call that submerged fermentation. So the fermentation in this type is submerged fermentation. They can maybe carry out in the batch or continuous. Depends. Okay, most likely we're using beer fermentation or something like that. The medium is added into the last vessel, and then the surface area to the volume age ratio is very less.
Mấy thứ này tôi không coi đâu. Gì vậy?
So the surface area to the volume height ratio is mean that like how much we fill in the vessel. Okay?
Quá vậy. Hình như có quen.
We need to maintain the space in there,
Tôi không nhìn lầm rồi.
là water.
and around 5 to 10% of the inoculums is added. It means that how much of the microorganism we add in. Okay? Inoculum is usually in liquid form. We need to transfer them in liquid form so that they can disperse well in the medium. Okay? And the products used are usually high as compared to input cost. They can use very efficient. Okay, so compared to the solid state fermentation, so another state of fermentation can carry out as batch mostly. The medium is added into the flat threshold of the trays. Okay? And the surface area volume pH is very high, so it means that we need to in contact between the microorganisms and with the media is very high. Okay, so that the surface area should be high. Less inoculum is added. We don't need to use much of the culture or the microorganisms. The inoculum is usually sprayed on the surface of the medium. Okay? And the product yield is comparatively less. And so normally we're using this one.
Có độc viên khác nữa hả?
Okay, so what is the fermentation? So we have some information for you guys.
Bánh trứng dần dĩ là người nào vậy? Rõ ràng nhắm vào water rồi.
Đoạn phim này không ai phản hồi sẽ lắng xuống mau thôi. Nhưng mà coi nè, diễn đàn nào cũng phản hồi đó. Diễn đàn nói cổ là cô gái khô khan, cố tình làm cho mình thành như vậy.
Okay, so the fermentation they can be defined as first we say that the process they can induce for the chemical changes.
Vài ngày.
We would like to have a chemical change,
Chuyển hướng chú ý của chị.
but chemical change
Chịu dài dài.
because of what agent. Okay, so we need to have the substrate in there. Normally we have the organic substrate first, and then we're using the enzyme of microorganisms. Okay, so the microorganisms they try to adapt to environment. They try to generate for the extracellular enzymes to use up the substrate and convert them into the byproducts.
Thì ra là che mắt.
Okay, so that's the way that we can employ the microorganism. Okay, so it means in another words, we control the activity of the microorganisms. Okay, to convert the organic substrate into the products, desirable products that we wish to have. Okay, so the control of the microorganism activity. Okay, so another definition is say the metabolic process. Okay, so mostly focus on the carbohydrates and some other compounds. Okay, but here the carbohydrates and some other compounds possibly be oxidized to release the energy for the cell of the microorganism we can use. Okay, in absence or in any external electron acceptor. Okay, it means that like in the state of sometimes
Có bị
don't
phản
have
vậy?
oxygen. Okay.
Tôi cảm thấy mọi người đang
So
nhìn tôi,
here
đang nói về tôi.
Không có đâu.
we got like
Đó, tôi
agents
làm
very
việc
popular
đó.
applied in the food industry, that the yeast
Tôi luôn cảm thấy
and the
họ đã
lactic
xem
acid
bản phim
bacteria.
nhận ra tôi.
Trời ơi,
The
câu này
yeast,
có nghiêm trọng
lactic
quá,
acid
có chừng
bacteria.
chết tử
Okay.
giờ.
So normally they're using the free sugar as a substrate.
Anh nói cũng đúng.
Oh, sorry.
Thả lỏng chút đi, đừng có làm bản thân mình như người mất hồn, đâu có được gì chứ.
Bánh trứng giận dữ đó ngày nào cũng đưa phim của tôi lên hết. Sao tôi có thể xem như không có chuyện gì?
Rõ ràng là hắn nhắm vào cô. Cô có nợ tiền ai quên trả cho nên họ chơi cô không?
Tôi đâu
Okay, sorry guys,
tiền
just
anh.
answer the phone call and then they come back to
Người
you.
ta cướp thì có.
Vậy lúc cô dần người ta chia tay, có từng đá người ta chưa?
Lần nào cũng là người ta bỏ tôi hết.
Sư phụ à, tình cảm và tiền bạc thì không phải, vậy là cái gì?
Bánh trứng đó lai lịch không rõ, tôi thực sự không đoán được.
Cũng tại bản thân của tôi hốt hoảng. Tôi vừa nghe chuông báo động, không nghĩ gì hết đã chạy ra ngoài.
Vô duyên vô cớ chuông báo cháy, cô không cảm thấy khả nghi sao?
Tôi có chứ, cho nên mới đi hỏi bảo vệ. Bảo vệ lúc thì nói chuông báo động bị hư, lúc thì nói con nít phá chuông báo động. Anh nói sao thì tôi nghe vậy thôi. Tôi không hề nghĩ là có người muốn quay lén tôi. Tôi thề là sau này có nghe tiếng chuông báo cháy tôi cũng không bỏ chạy.
Không được vậy thì không được. Nếu thật sự bị cháy thì sao?
Biết phải làm sao chứ.
Họ đưa đoạn phim lên trên mạng là biết cô sẽ xem được. Họ không có dùng trò cũ nữa đâu.
Tôi nghĩ chắc là đưa lên hết rồi sẽ dừng lại thôi.
Dù không có phim mới, mấy đoạn phim này thôi cũng để tôi bị người ta cười suốt 1 năm. Sáng ngày đi làm tôi cũng chỉ đón taxi thôi, không dám đứng đón xe quá lâu.
Cư dân mạng xem chuyện này chỉ lướt qua thôi. Họ không nhận ra mặt của cô đâu mà lo. Phải rồi, có thể vài ngày nữa đoạn phim quay ở trên xe buýt gì đó được đưa lên mạng thì của cô sẽ bị out.
Hy vọng là vậy.
Được rồi, để tôi ký.
Cảm ơn nhiều.
Rồi đó. Hữu à, tài liệu này là các vụ tôi đã xử lý trong 2 năm nay, chỉ là một số nhỏ thôi. Nếu cảm thấy không có vấn đề gì thì
Cái tên bánh trứng đánh xác dán luôn. Chà, lần này không những tung hình ảnh.
Okay, sorry guys, we'll come back.
Của tên nữa. Tuy tìm thịt người cao tay như vậy, rõ ràng là nhắm qua tơ.
hắn ta càng ngày càng quá đáng.
Okay, so the yeast and the lactic acid bacteria, they're using the free sugar to convert into the alcohol. So in the yeast, we call that the alcoholic fermentation. Okay, for the lactic acid bacteria, they're using the free sugar and they convert into the organic acid in form of the mostly in the lactic acid. Okay, that's the almost genus fermentation. Okay, so in here, so you guys still remember the glycolysis?
Nếu như hình ảnh đó
Glycolysis.
thông qua mạng của nước ngoài để mà truyền ra, thì cảnh sát có thể tìm ra hắn.
Nhưng thật sự tôi thấy không có an toàn.
Tôi cảm thấy
Glycolysis.
cũng cần báo cảnh sát trước. Nhưng bây giờ tôi phải đi học, mọi người có kết luận gì có thể gọi cho tôi.
Nutrition,
Không cần sợ, có chúng tôi.
biochemistry.
Nghe thấy chưa? Sau khi tăng ca, tôi sẽ cùng
Hello?
đi báo cảnh sát, không cần lo.
Bình tĩnh. Loại biến thái này duy nhất là sẽ nhìn
Yes, this is the process that oxidize the glucose to generate pyruvate and
không phải bỏ mặt mà là đối xử.
Yeah, broken down. Okay, we say that the broken down of the glucose to this one 6 carbon compound to form 2 of 3 carbons compound of pyruvate. Okay, and this one they if in the normal oxidation, so they continue into the Krebs cycle. Okay, and then electron transport chain to make much of the ATP. Okay, but in here a little bit different. So the glycolysis and in the front of the regeneration of the NAD, you don't still remember NAD? Vitamin B. Vitamin B, still remember?
Ngày mai sẽ tốt hơn cho con. Cậu đứng về phía nào? Ngồi xuống làm việc đi. Tôn giả thôi mà không sao đâu.
Nicotine, amide, adenine, D-nucleotide. Remember? Okay. Vitamin B3, niacin. Okay. So in this one, we have like the state of the NAD plus. Okay, regeneration, and then they convert into the pyruvate into the acetaldehyde. Okay, acetaldehyde, and they convert into the ethanol. Okay, so the pathway in here that follow the alcohol fermentation. Okay, So in here, they use up the NAD plus to make the NADH. This one, the substrate can make like the ATP in case that like they been into the electron transport chain. Okay, but in this one, they can serve for the NADH to regenerate for NAD plus, okay, and convert it into the ethanol. And this one, they come back into the NAD plus. Okay. So type of the fermentation. We have several types here, but most likely we got like the lactic acid fermentation is very, very highly applied in the food industry. So the major types of the fermentation we talk about like the first up to that involved in the lactic acid fermentation. Okay, so the first mode is that the homo fermentation of the lactic acid. It means that the lactic acid is the only product derived from the fermentation. So the convert of the substrate from glucose to lactic acid. Okay, so this one the homo fermentation. It means only lactic acid can be generated. Okay. The second one, the lactic acid, but this one hetero fermentation. Hetero is mean designed for the lactic acid. They also they come with some other organic acid, example like acetic acid and sometimes like the ethanol. Okay, so again the hetero fermentation they convert the glucose not only into the lactic acid but also come with other products, example acetic acid and ethanol. Okay, so do you think in the yogurt, you know yogurt, right? Do you wish to have the flavor of the acetic acid and the ethanol in there? In yogurt. In yogurt.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So that's the reason why, you know, when we're making yogurt, homemade, right? Example, domestic making of the yogurt. Normally, you know, we add the culture in. You know, we got like the yogurt somewhere before, right? We use that as the starting culture. So when we got to mix up the milk, okay, be already pasteurized and cooling down, add the culture in it, okay, and then they can like you know form the homo fermentation very quickly, okay. So the second mode, okay, but this one maybe calls for the change in the sensory quality. Okay. The third one is the propionic acid fermentation. Okay, this one like the lactic acid fermentation here mostly cause for the problem when we not control well after fermentation. The propionic, this one is three carbons, okay? One, two, three carbons acid. It means soft chain fatty acid. Also got a flavor. Propionic acid fermentation, they can generate from the lactic acid and then they convert into the propionic. Okay? One, two, three, four. And then maybe some other like, you know, acetic acid come with like water and carbon dioxide. Sometimes the activity of microorganisms they also they lead into forming diacetyl. Okay, and some like butylene glycol, we call that this one like the butanol. Okay, the fermentation. So first example, the substrate of the citric acid they can be to the pyruvate or pyruvate. Okay, so acetal and then they lead into the acetyl methylcarbinol. Okay, and they can lead to the diacetyl or they can lead to the 2,3 butylene glycol. Okay, two group of their OH generate here. Okay, diacetyl is the substrate that is available in the alcohol. They can make the headache. Okay, and then like you know like it's not preferable in the product. Okay, so some by product available maybe they can lead to you know like the the undesirable properties of the food after ending of the fermentation. Okay, so that's the reason why sometimes we need to control well. So the fifth mode of the fermentation that they very popular apply in the industry as well, that the alcoholic fermentation. They convert into the ethanol. Okay, glucose from the ethanol. This one using by the yeast. And the last one, that bitric acid fermentation, that's this one like sometimes involving the function of some molds. Okay, they convert the substrate like glucose into the acid and the butyric acid. This one very delicate for the cheese. Okay, this one the cheese, and that reason why during like ripening of the cheese, so we wish to have the butyric acid and the flavor. Okay, so the involved of the microorganisms in some example, lactic acid bacteria involved in the yogurt. Okay, so acetobacter, or we call that acetic acid bacteria, so involved in making the vinegar. Okay, and the yeast involved in making the alcohol products, alcohol containing products, beer and some wine and some like even some wine very high value. Okay, example like in the France, they got like a lot of like famous wine. For the molds involved in fermented products, you know this one? What you call these products? On your right hand side, what's in there? What you call this? No ideas?
I see that is a fermented soybeans.
Yeah, but in Vietnam we have like tương bừng, you remember? Yes. Okay, so conventional products from Vietnam also like involved in. So the fermentation involving alcoholic fermentation or lactic acid fermentation and acetic acid fermentation, sometimes the alkali fermentation. Okay? To making the amino acid. This one like now they make from like industry from some company example like Ajinomoto. So they try to make like amino acid. So if you wish any rich amino acid they can make it. But like from the alcoholic fermentation, so what under the working activity of the yeast, what like the beverages containing alcohol. Lactic acid material, lactic acid bacteria. Okay, so they're using for some substrate to convert that into lactic acid. Mainly we have like yogurt products. That's famous. The vinegar in the acetic acid bacteria working. Okay, so something we need to take into account when we try to have a good batch of the fermentation. First, we think about the moisture content, and how much the water available for them to grow, because that's a substrate, that's the medium for them to grow. The temperature, we need to know exactly what the temperature that's like suitable for them to optimal of the fermentation. Okay. Because we try to maintain the optimal condition for their metabolic activity. So the nutritional requirement is mean that like each group of the organisms, they have like one like optimal nutrient contains requirements. So that like we need to know exactly what kind of the microorganisms and what is the requirements from the nutrients, and then you can supply for them for best growth. The pH value, sometimes we need to allow the pH that's good for them to grow, because this will also affect on their growth. Or maybe inhibitors, we can like assist in two ways. We can inhibit some other species, okay, we can like eliminate some like inhibitor that like inhibit the growth of the desirable microorganisms. Okay, so in that case, so sometimes they're not very suitable if we just maintain the as is of the media. So we need to change a little bit. Okay, so the benefits of the fermented food. Okay, so why we need to use that? Okay, so this one some recommendation for you guys. So say why eat fermented food? So because the enzymes. Okay, so because of probiotics, because of the safety. Because safety is mean that like low acid, low pH, okay, high acidity generate from the fermentation. They can inhibit for the pathogens. Okay? So for the reservation, it means that we're using the fermented food like longer time, safer, and sometimes like this increase in the nutrition. Sometimes they can enhance certain substrate for the food. Okay, example like in the beer, sometimes like rich in vitamin B1, okay, because of the yeast in there. So the yeast available in the beer, if they like the yeast extract available there, they should be like high in the vitamin B1 in thiamine. Okay, so that's several like benefits that you can think about like fermented food. So any in here like familiar to you? Health benefits, okay, of dairy products, fermented dairy products. Okay, in here we talk about like this kinds of the products that containing for many health benefits. Okay, so improve in the calcium. Okay, and 25% of vitamin B12, contain vitamin B6 and B2. For those one with lactose intolerance. Lactose intolerance, what does it mean, guys? Lactose intolerance. Lactose intolerance.
It's a health condition of the people who cannot digest lactose.
Yes, they cannot like lack of the lactase. Okay, so the lactose that's the problem. So the lactose not be digested, not be absorbed at the small intestine, so the pass through the large intestine where they can be fermented. Okay, they cause for the diarrhea. Okay, so the lactose intolerance in there. But just think, okay, so for those people like this, they also have a chance to for the milk consumption, for dairy consumption, by using some fermented dairy product. Example, yogurt. Okay, if just try if you are lactose intolerant, and then just using the yogurt, not cause for any problem because the lactose in there with the glucose or in with the sucrose already being used up by the lactic acid bacteria, and then they convert into the lactic acid already. So in that case, the lactose may not available in the yogurt. Okay, and then for those people with lactose intolerance, they can save use the product. Okay, any of you got a problem with lactose intolerance? Drinking milk and got a problem? No? Okay, so the next activity of the dairy product is that like they containing some, like probiotics that they can stimulation of the immunological system. This one they can improve in the immune system. Okay, so the specific mechanism we explained for you in the last part of this lecture. Okay, so eating yogurt and then think about the benefits. Okay, so some benefits of the yogurt they can bring to the consumer. Example, they can reduce in the constipation by increasing the bowel movement and then reducing the strain of the pain during the bowel movement. So easier for excrete outside. Okay, of the weight, decrease in the cholesterol level. Okay, that's the second action. Okay. Lactose intolerance, no problem. We can improve for the digestion of the products, okay, by not deal with that the lactose. Okay. So the lactose intolerance is no need to worry much about the yogurt. They can like remain for some problem. Example, vaginal yeast infection. So they can like again for some infection. Not here, they're not mentioned about like some pathogen, but like also the available of the probiotics. Okay, probiotics, not prebiotics. They can be cause for prevention of the infection. Okay, so the specific mechanism also I tell you at the end of the lecture. Okay, so have a look on the production chart. Okay, the flow chart says first we got the milk with the supplements. Why we need to have supplements here? Why we need to have supplements? What do you think in the supplements? What is supplement in there, guys? You think? Why we need to supplement?
I think it could be some ingredients. For example, sugar.
Yeah, not only sugar, but also like something that like suitable for lactic acid bacteria growth. Okay, the thing about that, we try to make the best condition for the growth. Okay, milk supplements again. After that, like we do homogenization and pasteurization. Why we need to do the pasteurization here? Pasteurization.
I think pasteurization in here to destroy the other microorganism, and then in our mixture there's only the lactic acid bacteria from the starter culture.
Yeah. Yep. This means that we try to eliminate some stranger first, okay, to make sure that like avoid any uncontrolled fermentation that can occur. And we try to do the controlled fermentation. So we need to do the pasteurization. And this one is not very the expensive of the heating. We just only do with the around like 95 degrees Celsius for maximum 10 minutes. Okay, and we need to cool it down into the 43 degrees Celsius. Why we not like cooling down to 30 or some other lower temperature, but we keep around 33, 43.
I think it's the suitable or the best temperature for the microorganism for the in the starter culture.
Yeah, it's best for the lactic acid bacteria. Okay, so normally if the domestic making homemade, normally you need to do the fermentation by putting under the sunlight, okay, for a few hours, right? And here, if we got like the control chamber, okay, so we can like make the temperature around like 43 degrees Celsius. And after that, we add in the starter culture. Starter culture here is lactic acid bacteria, okay? And after that, the fermentation takes place. And you see that the cooling to 43 degrees Celsius, that's suitable for the fermentation to take place. And the lasting for around like 3 to 6 hours. Okay. And after that, we need to cooling in around like 3 to 9 degrees Celsius, where we can do the packaging and storage. Okay. So Even like this one already be fermented, we need to have a proper storage because we avoid to for any further contamination. Okay, so in here we got the culture of the lactic acid bacteria, but we don't want some other cross contamination from the environment in. So they should be in proper of the package. Normally we prepare the package very carefully, pasteurized before. Okay, so we talk about like some characteristic of the yogurt culture. So we talk about like streptococcus, Tupperfield. So do you think that Tupperfield, what does it mean, Tupperfield? What is the meaning of the Tupperfield? They can working at a little bit higher temperature. Okay, so gram-positive bacteria non-spore forming, facultative anaerobic, normal size, grow at temperature like 30 to 51. Okay, so 43 is no worry. Okay, so the optimum it should be around like 35 to 42. It can ferment lactose with either formic acid, pyruvic, lactic acid, and chloride, reduce the pH. Okay, so in here some other byproduct maybe come with the lactic acid as well. But the thing about like some product like this may be not undesirable, okay, but they can like contribute to other stream. And so that's the first. The second culture, normally we use that lactobacillus, okay, and we got the Debrucces or the Bungaricus. Normally the name Bungaricus is referred to use. So this one like gram-positive bacteria, non-spore forming, the same roll shape, not like round shape as the Streptococcus, okay? Roll shape is long like this. Facultative anaerobic normal size, roll at temperature like 35 to 51. Optimum around like 43 to 46. So we maintain about 43. That's suitable for both Streptococcus and Lactobacillus. So they require for low pH around like 5.4 and 4.6. They contain for some proteinase and betainase activity, so they can, if the fermentation of this one is too much, they can produce like some small peptides. And small peptide, what does it mean? Small peptide here. What do you think about the small peptide available in here? What they cause for any problem with the yogurt?
I think it's a bitter flavor.
Yeah, they got bitter flavor, but then like some the broken down of the amino acid, okay, they can contribute to the sensory quality, okay, but we need to select for the lactobacillus strain so that like we can review for the bitter taste, okay, so selective of the culture it should be very carefully. Okay, so in combination between the Streptococcus thermophilus and the Lactobacillus bulgaricus. Okay, so this one they generate for some breakdown of the protein containing for some aroma amines. Okay, so they contribute to the sensory quality by increase in aroma. But the side effects of this one may be generated for the bitter taste, so we need to control well. For the Streptococcus thermophilus, this one the guys of making the acid. Okay, so the acid they cause for the milk, okay, protein become gel, right? So that like in combination we have the structure, we have like the acid containing products with the good flavor. So combination of two strains of the bacteria, and then can achieve for the production of the yogurt. Okay. Understand, guys?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, so some more details in the metabolic products of the yogurt culture. So from lactose, okay, so they can generate for the lactic acid, okay, and from some galactose broken down from the lactose, okay, so they can use up by their both of the strains Streptococcus or the Lactobacillus agaricus, okay, and then they can like generate for some combination between the acid and the aroma. They can generate for the binomic acid or the binoate, okay, so some other things like further use, so using making acetate formic acid, okay, acetaldehyde, and some like the acetone. Some milk protein be broken down, okay, and contribute into the aromatic elements. Example like making peptides and generate for the amino acid. So some of them generate for bitter flavor as well. Okay, so be careful. The milk fats they're using the lipase generated by the yogurt culture to convert them into the fatty acid like glycerol. Okay, and during that, some like fat derived compounds also contribute into the general flavor of the yogurt. Okay, so the factors affecting the yogurt quality. So first, the material. So material we have like milk, and it depends on like how the quality of the milk and the contamination of the microorganism before. We have the starter culture, which should be very carefully selected. Okay, between like the acid forming and the aroma forming strains. So normally like the culture we apply in the yogurt making that the mixture is not only the single strain. Okay, and we got the process condition, and after that we got the final yogurt. Okay. But right now, like the yogurt in the industry, that's very, very different, right? So you see that like the Vinamilk yogurt and some other like yogurt, they have like different texture and they have different flavor. Okay, but like think about the yogurt industry. So the Greek yogurt is very popular, very famous. So in Vietnam, normally when we mix with sugar, but some other countries usually they using yogurt like without any added sugar. Okay, I think that like we can stop the lecture from the dairy fermented milk products. Okay, and we continue with the mixed product from next week. Okay. And just to keep in your mind that like next week we have the quiz. Okay, and the quiz will take place by the end of the lecture. Okay, and we'll take for you around like should be around like 40 minutes of the last section of the lecture for the quiz. Okay. And during the quiz, I would like to ask all you guys open the camera, okay, and please so prepare for your camera, okay, and ready to open camera. Is it okay?
Sure.
Yes, teacher.
Is the content of the quiz still the same?
Yeah, the content of the quiz is still the same. Okay, so the lecture number 9, number 10. Oh, the number 10, they still have some part like I cover for you the last. Okay, so not much, but please cover all that. Okay, number 9 and number 10. Any other question, guys? Okay, so make sure all your friends available in the quiz. Okay, I don't want any of you absent from the quiz. Okay, so that's a good chance for you to earn a mark for the total assessment. Okay, so please don't miss any component in there. So you guys got like the midterm exam quite successful. So then like I hope like you got like a good mark in the quiz as well, and then a good chance for you to get a high mark when you finish the final exam. Once again, so I'm not sure that like the lab session how that is run so far. Is it okay? Lab session. Is it okay for the lab?
Uh,
After that holiday, we will have offline session for our lab.
Okay, yes. So it means that like you guys have a chance to back the uni.
I don't know, teacher. It's only for lab session.
Đúng rồi không?
Okay, so do you guys think that happy to come back to uni?
Oh yes.
Okay, for me, okay, happiness, okay, the happy they come with the worry. In our uni, okay, we also like got like the action that we allow some like the final year student, you know, when they do the major project, they can come back the lab to do the experiment. But then like you know, like we still worry about like the outbreak of the coronavirus. Okay, but anyway, okay, so we need to come back the uni because our job, okay, but how to make it safe. That's the most consideration. So I think that you guys also you know take care. Okay, so you guys can come back the uni after the tech holiday. But you think right now they still increasing, increasing in the case number, right? In our country, so far more than 15,000 already, guys, per day. So still take care, okay? Keep distance with the mask, okay, and stay safe. Okay, don't be you know like think about like no, okay, that is not serious case. Okay? Sometimes very serious guy. Okay, so it depends on the individual how your body respond to the virus. Okay, it's not the same. Okay, don't think that okay. All my friends say okay, I'm still okay. It's not like that. Okay, so see you next week, guys. Okay, so thank you very much for joining the lecture this morning. Okay, I'm sorry for disruption. You know, like sometimes with the phone call. Okay, so sorry for that. Okay, but some important call I need to answer. So thank you very much. Okay, see you.
Thank you, teacher. See you later.
Okay, see you later. Okay, so all the lectures I already post for you. So today lecture I also like post for you. Okay.